Hello everybody, and you're watching the Christiana321. I'm the Christiana, and it's Pride Month. Happy Pride. I've got my Ace Pride ring on, and my Ace Pride sweatshirt on from San Francisco. It's got like the right color scheme, but not the right order. But I'm gonna count it because there's not a whole lot of like cute, fun Ace Pride stuff out there. I always attribute that to just the being ace is, or asexual, is the lack of sexual attraction, and so it's really difficult to get like all up and excited about something not being there. Like, I'm way more excited about the things that are in my life that are there because thank you, dear. Because I don't have the sexual attraction part in my life. So, a little while back, last year sometime, I found an Instagram page that I think is for an Ace podcast. But so they had in their website or their bio or something a list of books with asexual representation or by asexual authors, or people who fall somewhere on the ace spectrum, aromantic, agender, that whole thing. So I got some books from that list, but also I've got some books that I just already had, and I've been reading them. The plan was to make this video after I had read all of the ones that I bought from that list, so that I could tell you whether or not I recommend them or who I would recommend them for. But I'm a slow reader and I really wanted this to come out in June, so happy Pride. These books have asexual representation, but they also have other representations. Some of them it's a main character, some of them it's a side character. I've got Greek mythology, I've got poetry, I've got sci-fi, I've got nonfiction, I've got, oh gosh, YA, short stories. So we're gonna go through them. First one, it's a little bit controversial, and I know that you've heard of it, but I'm not going to make a book about ace characters without talking about Sherlock Holmes. Now, there's of course a lot of people out there who like to say that Sherlock and Watson were lovers, that John Watson is gay or bi, and I totally buy into that, especially the more recent representations. He is a lot more open. I haven't read all of the Sherlock Holmes stories, but in those representations, I don't get any kind of bisexualness from John. But I do get asexual from Sherlock. He has only ever been interested in one person, the woman, but it doesn't seem to come from a sexual place. It comes from that individual is interesting to me kind of place, which is a very different type of attraction than asexual attraction. So I count him. Fight me. Most of these are ones that I have physical copies of. So back in 2019, I read a couple of audiobooks, and now the asexual character does happen in the first book. Like, you do meet this character, but you learn a lot more about her in the second book. So the first book is called A Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. And the second book is A Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy. And basically, the main character in the second book is a girl, a woman. I don't remember how old she is. So these books are set in like, I don't know, kind of times, like Pirates of the Caribbean times. So the first book is about her brother going off doing his like year abroad. They're both from her brother and sister, so they're from the same family, from a rich family that like wants them to be successful and do rich people things. And on the brother's like year abroad, his best friend comes along, and it's very cute. There's also LGBT representation in that book. We don't want to spoil anything. I believe there's also magical realism in there, but it's been a while, so I may have been reading into it. But so then the sister in the second book gets her like story, and she just like has zero interest in the whole find a husband and be a good match and raise babies thing, like zero at all. And she also doesn't have interest even like with a best friend, a best female friend, making something there. She just wants to become a doctor, and I love it. I don't know if it ever explicitly says that she's asexual, but she is. That's kind of a theme in here, is a lot of people stray away from that word because it is kind of difficult to define, and asexual describes a very wide variety of experiences. And so if you want to know more about that, you should read this book. Ace, what asexuality reveals about desire, society, and the meaning of sex. I'm about a third of the way through this, and it is fantastic. So this is the nonfiction book I was saying, and it goes into the details of what does it mean to be ace, what does it mean to be aro, what does it mean to be allo. Allo means that you do experience sexual attraction, and basically it's kind of a spectrum. Where like some people experience 0 sexual attraction, some people experience 100 sexual attraction, and then there are people in between. And depending on where you fall in between, you might still identify as allosexual or as asexual. If you're closer to the asexual side, but you do experience sexual attraction, then you could be gray sexual, or you could be demisexual. And if you want to know more about it and a little bit of the history of asexuality, because whenever the Kinsey scale, if you're familiar, it talks about like from 0 to 6, how straight or gay are you? In that study, there was a group of individuals in there that were asexual, and they were excluded from Kinsey's experiment. They were put into group X, I believe. Read about it here. So we've known about asexuality for a long time, but it only really became popular through blogs. That's how asexual people found each other, because it's not, again, when you are connected by the fact that none of us have this thing, we all have all of these other things going on, it's difficult to find other people who are missing the same thing as you. I say missing, I'm not really missing it. Oh, there's also a graphic novel. Okay, so then we got this. I don't know if it technically counts as a novella. It's called The Cybernetic Tea Shop by Meredith Katz. This is one of the ones that I found on the list, and basically it's set 1,000 years in the future, a couple hundred years in the future. I don't know if it ever specifies, but there's this woman who is a mechanic for robots and things. She's asexual, and she ends up falling in love. Well, she finds somebody who is an interesting partner who also is asexual, but in a different way. I don't know. I don't want to do any spoilers, and I'm really bad at describing books without spoilers, especially because it's so short. So like the stuff I'm talking about only happens, 30 pages in, but you're 30 pages in, you're a third of the way through the book. Alright, but it's good, it's short, it's sweet. With short books, you don't get as much description. I would have loved to hear more about this world. I would have loved to hear more about the main character's backstory and her family, because there's some drama, and I do enjoy reading about fictional drama. Alright, so then we've got Goddess of the Hunt by poems by Shelby Eileen. So this is a poetry collection written about the goddess Artemis, who, at least in this telling, is asexual. If you saw my video about poetry, you know I'm not a big poetry person. I did think that this was really great and really sweet, and I think is good poetry, but I'm not a poetry person. I did enjoy reading it. I also don't know a whole lot about Artemis in traditional Greek mythology, so I'm not sure how much of it is accurate to that. But even if like it's not accurate for that Artemis, just a goddess who's asexual in the various situations that happen in this book. No spoilers. But it's really short and sweet. Some of the poems are told from Artemis's perspective, and then you get some poems from other gods and goddesses that she interacts with. Right. Then we've got a graphic novel, which I talked about in my graphic novel video. It's called Pumpkinheads, and Deja is demisexual. Demisexual is when you can only experience sexual attraction after you have formed an emotional bond with the person. So I'm counting it. I know some people get real protective of different titles and what can go in what category, but I love her, and I think that it definitely counts as ace representation. So, graphic novel. We are just like talking about a lot of the books that I've read with asexual representation. Alright, so going back to sci-fi, but this is only set maybe 5 years in the future. It's An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. Now, the asexual character is very much a side character, like a tertiary character. So in the first book, you do meet them, but you don't really get to know much about them other than their job and how their job affects the main character. There might be like 1 or 2 lines that hint at it, but in the second book, A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor, you do get like some more solid confirmation, and you get to learn about their social life, and yes, they are asexual, possibly aromantic. I don't remember. But the second book won't make any sense unless you read the first book, and they're both just really great. Now these next 2 are ones that I have not even started, but have come highly, highly recommended. This one is Loveless by Alice Oseman. I do have the British cover because I was too impatient to wait for the American version to come out. And then the American version came out, and I should have waited. I mean, this is great, but I just like the American cover a little bit more. So basically, main character going through coming of age stuff, never been in love, never kissed anybody, kind of thinks something might be wrong with her, but then she starts learning about asexuality and aromanticism, and I think those categories might fit her, but you find out in the book. It is a little bit long compared to the books I've been reading and been recommending, but I'm very excited about it. Alice Oseman also wrote Radio Silence, which I haven't read either, and Heartstopper, which everybody flipped their dang minds, lost their dang minds about last month or something. So it's a series of graphic novels lots of LGBT representation. But Netflix adapted it into a TV series, and so when it came out, yeah, I guess it's really good. I kind of want to watch it, but I want to read the graphic novels first, but I feel like I should read this first, not in the same universe, but just in like solidarity with my ace friends. Although I do think that I heard that one of the characters in Heartstopper is ace. Don't know though. Oh my goodness. We're on my last book. The Stars We Steal by Alexa Dunn. So if you haven't heard of Alexa Dunn, she's written a lot of books. This was her second novel, I believe. Let's talk about this one first. This one is a sci-fi retelling. A lot of these are sci-fi, I'm now realizing. A sci-fi retelling of Jane Eyre, I believe. Yeah. So I don't know who in Jane Eyre would be asexual. There's only, a handful of main characters, but I was promised that there would be asexual representation. So, but I love Alexa Dunn. She has a YouTube channel mostly where she talks about being an author, her process, freaking out over deadlines, but she also will do rant videos where she just talks about the publishing industry or helping young authors, letting them know tips and tricks and what to look out for, that you should, if you like books, either writing them, publishing them, reading them, she's a good person to watch. That's all the books I have with confirmed or nearly confirmed asexual representation to recommend to you today. Over here on this bookshelf, I have a lot of books with LGBTQIA plus themes and characters, and so there's a darn good chance that I missed them, either because I haven't read them yet and they're just here on my TBR, or because I forgot, because I forget a lot. If you have any good recommendations for books that have any LGBTQIA plus representation, let me know in the comments below. I'm always looking to add to my TBR, and I will read them all eventually. But also, I have a tendency, and I tried to avoid it for this list, but basically anytime a main character or a secondary character doesn't explicitly say that they have attraction towards someone, in my brain I'm just like, ace, ace, ace. And that's fine for me. There are a lot of books up here that one or more of the characters don't have a romantic or sexual plot line, and so it's fine. That's all I've got for you today. I hope that you have a good Pride Month if you celebrate. If you're an ally, I hope that you have a lot of fun celebrating the people in your life that are part of the community, and we appreciate your allyship. I am procrastinating doing my homework, so I'll see you guys soon, next week, maybe. Good night, sweet dreams.